I was trying to find something new and something different from modernism and different from metabolism, different from Japanese tradition of building. To talk with the carpenters, to talk with the plaster workers, talk with the rice paper craftsmen. It's a really as an exciting experience. They have their own as experience. They taught me many things about the material. It's the beginning of my second life. I want to create nest for us. As a, and as a, when animals build their nest, they are picking up some materials from surroundings, and as the size of the material is the size is picking the size of the body. At the beginning, I didn't like my house because my house looks old, it looks weak and very dirty and dark. And my friend's house was shining. The forest is giving me many hints. The natural light comes through the leaves is not strong and they're not direct. But it's a softness of natural light in the forest is the basis of our the design for the interior. The concrete is opposite. Concrete is one solid volume, and we cannot communicate with this big solid volume. And as a small particles, the good thing for the small particles is some light and some wind can come through between the small particles. I try to avoid hierarchy. Some flatness and the freedom in the flatness is most important. Concrete is dead, but wood is living. Kendo Tange was not my idol anymore.
Morning. Hello, Kuma-san.
Hello.
Konnichiwa.
Sure.
Very nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I want to remind you we actually met in 2008, 17 years ago here in New York. You gave a lecture at Cooper Union and we met a little bit after that. And you were also in New York to oversee the construction of your house in Connecticut. So that was the time. And we had a very good conversation. And I also want to show you that I have some books around here, your books. And this book here. So I'm surrounded by your books. There is also Commune by the Great Wall.
Yeah.
I have it signed by Jean Shin, the client for this project. She now lives in New York. And also, I don't know if you know this book, Imagine Buildings Floating Like Clouds. I included our interview in the book. So there is a great quote from that interview. The closest image to the kind of architecture I try to achieve is a rainbow. So we will talk about that. And I also have some drawings of yours. I don't have them right here. But let me start with your. I want to ask you about your upbringing to begin, but then we will talk about mostly materiality and intentions behind your work. And so you grew up in a traditional house. I understand that it was built in the 1920s by your grandfather, who was a doctor. And then your father, a businessman, made many alterations and additions to the house. And I know that you shared a number of times, you shared the story when your father brought you to see the 1964, the sculptural gymnasium. And that was the year when it was built. You were just 10, and it inspired you to study architecture. What I'm fascinated about that particular story is that you ask your father who was the architect, which is unusual for a 10-year-old to ask. And what is also unusual is that your father actually knew who the architect was. So I want to know, what was your so that was Kenzo Tange. So what was your father's relationship to architecture?
Yes, so basically, he was not an architect, and he was working for his mill. It's a business, and as not design, but as he loved design very much. And I heard when he was young that he was sent by the company to the mountainside, what you call as a mining place is and as a small mining factory is he designs some lighting fixtures by himself, as he was very proud to design it. And as that and also he was collecting some furnitures or something, and also uh, he bought the Brunentaut designed small product. Maybe you know that the story is. And then Brunentaut had a small shop in Ginza, maybe 1933 or 4, and my father bought the small product in the shop, and it's a small wooden case as a for there was for the color. That time the color was separated from the shirts, and it is a small case for the as a color and then we often, as my father and me, often visited the new buildings in 1960s. 1960s is the beginning of Japanese modernism, and Mike Aokunio designs the concert hall in Ueno, and Kisho Kurokawa designed some buildings in the Shibuya. That kind of as a new modernism building we visited together. It's a kind of weekend event. Visited some of the new buildings. Because he didn't want to go to the Disneyland. He loved design, and we went together and visited some places, and it is bad as Kenzo Tange's buildings and 96 Olympic was totally gave me the different impression. It's just it is too unique. It's very impressive. As a space itself is totally amazing. And then I asked my father who was the architect, blah blah blah, and I still remember the great experience on that day.
Yeah, so there is a direct connection between your choice of studying architecture and your father's interest. Yeah, that's great. And then when you were already a student, when you were studying architecture, I guess in Tokyo University, you traveled to Sahara Desert and you spent a couple of months there studying local villages. What was the intention, and what was it that you learned from that experience?
Yeah, so at that time, so I as entered the architecture school of Tokyo University, but the Kendo Tange was not my idol anymore. As Kenzo Tange, after 96 for Kenzo Tange became my idol. But the big Kenzo Tange is building in 1970s in the Saudi Arabia, the some Middle East. Those buildings doesn't look so exciting for me. And also Metabolism Movement is was still active, but I didn't like metabolism movement. As a Kishokurokawa, the capsule buildings, and looks like the monster of the mechanism monsters. I didn't like that kind of mechanicals as a monster, and also at the same times I was not interested in traditional Japanese buildings. The traditional Japanese building looks like not connecting to the contemporary life. It is already as a belonging to the past. And there's I was trying to find something new and something different different from modernism and different from metabolism, different from Japanese traditional building. And I had some dreams as Africa can give something to me, as a give hint to me. This is my dream. And at that time, I love the jazz music, jazz as and as I'm interested in the relationship between the African music and jazz. It is, and also the poet Archul Lambo, the French poet Archul Lambo. He was traveling in Africa, and also it's just a kind of a dream place for me. And as Professor Hara, as he traveled to them as edges of the world. Before going to Africa, he traveled South America, he traveled to India, he traveled to the Middle East, and I wanted to find some hint for futures from those edges of the world. But I thought we should go to Africa. I push for the heart to go to Africa together. And at the beginning, he hesitated because to go to Africa is a big adventure. There are many risks and many diseases. But finally, I could persuade him to go to Africa. And I traveled from Algeria to Côte d'Ivoire, across Sahara Desert, and it took 2 months. And it's this amazing experience.
So you're talking about Hiroshi Hara, who was your professor, who just passed away just a few days ago.
Yes, and January 3rd, he passed away.
And so, what did you learn from visits in those villages in person and staying there for 2 months?
The architecture of the village is and the place itself very much connected. The material wise, they were using the soil from the place, the leaves from the trees, and as all the materials came from the land itself, and also uh, they as they are showing the amazing diversity, and then the village is basically not so far from the neighbors, a neighboring village, but each village has a special diversity, and that diversity is as a very natural diversity. They don't want to be different from other villages, but naturally they are creating the uniqueness of each village, and it's really so beautiful. And I was very impressed by the relationship between the place and the architecture.
Yeah. After you finished your university in Tokyo, you came to New York, you studied at Columbia, and then in 1987 you established your practice in Tokyo, and then had some projects. But a few years later, the bubble burst, and you retreated from Tokyo to the countryside, I guess, on the outskirts, and you tried to learn traditional techniques. If you could talk about that time when you were, became interested in learning from local crafters, at that time working on smaller projects. What was that experience like?
Yeah, as in a bubble period, I opened office 1980s, so 6 and then 95 years in bubble period. I was very very busy for the project in Tokyo. I was young, but I could design some of the buildings in Tokyo. But suddenly, so as every project of Tokyo was cancelled, and suddenly I saw the bubble state I decided to see the countryside of Japan because I was born in Yokohama. So Yokohama is close to Tokyo. So I was born in the city. I wanted to see the countryside, small villages.
In Kanagawa.
Yeah, yeah. Kanagawa, Yokohama is a city, but after bus of bubble, I want to travel to the countryside of Japan. Luckily, my friend living in those countryside has invited me to do the lectures or some experiences, and so I have forgettable place. Yusuhara. Yusuhara is in Shikoku Islands. It is from the airport. It took us 3.5 hours. Is really the mountain in the mountain. And there's I found the very beautiful the wooden buildings, the wooden theaters, the community wooden theaters. It is really beautiful. It is the and it's the beginning of the relationship with Yusuhara. So I met the Yusuhara's mayors and he gave me the small commission, and as part of commission is a public toilet, small public toilet there, and as he said, I don't understand design. My only request is to use local wood. As a before as a project as a bubble period in Tokyo, I only did use concrete and steels or aluminum, it's just some kind of industrial material. But in Yusuhara, it's first time to use local wood, and but it's really it has an amazing experience to talk with the carpenters, to talk with the plaster workers, talk with the rice paper craftsmen. It's a really as an exciting experience. They have their own as experience. They told me many things about the material. It's the beginning of my second life. And after his heart, in 1990s, I, I did some small project in the other countryside of Japan. And the numbers of the projects is very small, and my office is getting very small, but I think it's a very lucky for me to do the project in the countryside of Japan. And I learned many things in that 10 years. As those I learned there, then is totally different from I learned from the university. University is logic, aesthetics, but it's very artificial. But as I learned in the countryside, it's totally different.
Yeah, there was a great distance, and now you had a chance to work directly with the site and the crafters. Yeah. So in this interview, I want to focus on materiality and of your buildings and the intentions behind them. And so to start, I want to read a quote from your book. You said, Why do I want to uh, particleize materials and reduce them to tiny pieces? Why do I want to break down stone, bamboo, and Japanese paper into louver-like particles? Why do I want to punch countless holes in every material? The answer is that I like their tactile qualities. Without particleizing materials, we cannot appreciate them as materials nor feel their vibrancy. So I wanted to read this, and I want to ask you about your work as a focus. When you talk about your work, you use such words and phrases as warm, human, natural, quiet, transparency, intuition, aging, multi-layering, dissolving an object, anti-object, juxtaposition of materials, living materials, a sensitive filter, building as a frame, a sense of depth, soft architecture, merging architecture and nature, harmonious connections, dissolution of boundaries, play between tradition and innovation, enjoying a conversation with the place, erasing architecture, following landscape, mechanism for framing portions of landscape, and in between space. How else would you describe your work, and what kind of architecture do you try to achieve?
As a simple said, I want to create the nest for us. As a and as when I'm also builds the nest, they are picking up some materials from surroundings, and as the size of the material is the size is fitting the size of the body, and as then the materials for the nest is a kind of friend of animal. And we humanity as a beginning of their history, we also as a build the nest for us from the material from the surroundings. So pick up some materials, or cut the materials. The sizes should be easy to handle. It is sizes. If size is too big, we cannot handle the material. And then the intimate scale, the bone materiality, and as kind of softness, those as quality is very necessary for the nest. And we should go back to that kind of relationship. Our nest should have that kind of quality, and that is basically my basic idea.
You also refer to your buildings as weak. If you should explain why.
Yes, yes, and if we should live in concrete, the concrete is too strong for us, and as we cannot feel as a friendship to the concrete, as it is too harsh, too solid, too cold, as we cannot feel sympathy to that kind of material, and there's some kind of weakness is necessary for our body, so we can relax in that kind of weak architecture, so and so that Japanese traditional houses has that kind of quality. It is made by the wooden frame, and made by the rice papers, made by the soil. It is very weak, and also at the same time it is very flexible. So we can move every element by our own hands, by our own fingers sometimes, and and the environment and as our body as are living together, because we have this the common the weakness. The body is not strong, and the architecture is not strong as well. And then as we have the common quality.
And this is what you learn from living in your own house as a child. And I understand that this was not your relationship with the house from the beginning. You wanted to live in a house like your friends lived in, concrete and more modern. So then you learn to love your place, right?
Yeah, yes, yes. I was born 1954. As a 1960s is a kind of critical as a moment for Japan. So many new houses are built by concrete and steel, and now some the new industrial material, vinyl cloth, fluorescent light, that kind of new material. As at the beginning, I didn't like my house because my house looks so old, looks so weak and very dirty and dark. And my friend's house is shining, was shining. But the and when I getting older, when I began to study architectures, I found my house, quality of my house is unique. This is a, it can be the model of the future as a house. It is. I began to think that in the same period when I visited Africa, as I visited Africa, as I found that kind of quality, and also I found the same quality in my house.
Could you discuss your idea of erasing the object and making architecture disappear by breaking it into particles?
Mhm. Yeah, so to break into the particles is a good way to make the architecture as intimate and some kind of as intimacy as created by as a breaking into small pieces. If it is the concrete is opposite. Concrete is one solid volume, and we cannot communicate with this big solid volume. And as a small particles, the good thing for the small particles is some light and some wind can come through between the small particles. That kind of is a small gaps is very necessary for life.
So I understand that those ideas came also from your house because of, I guess, there was space between, inside and outside, and there were drafts and all that. But the idea of using particles in your own architecture, how did that start? What was the beginning? What were the first steps?
Yeah, the first steps started after Basel bubble. When I started the project in Yusuhara towns, working with craftsmen, working with carpenters, and I found the method to create a small gap between the particles, and and the craftsmanship can make it happen. And as a big construction company is good for concrete building, they can create concrete sculptures. The concrete sculptures has no gaps, no spaces between.
You said that the most difficult part about or aspect about design is how do you start the beginning. So you start by engaging in a conversation with the place. What are some of the initial steps in your design?
The conversation with the place is same as the process of creating nest. So the animals decided the place for the nest and picking up the natural material from the environment, and always the nest and the place is basically wrong the whole thing. cannot be divided. As I think we should go back to that kind of relationship. And as going to the place and feel something from the place, find something from the place should be the beginning of design.
You said a flat roof building has no shadow, but a building with a traditional roof has a shadow. No shadow means no spirit. You also said, I find it fascinating. You also said the shadow can control everything. Typically, design starts with the roof. So, how do you establish this relationship between buildings and their shadows?
The prototype of the design for humanity is the one simple roof. The roof protects the earth from strong light, protect from rains, the roof is the beginning of every nest, and also the natural breeze can come through, come under the roof, and I really appreciate the role of the roof. And the wall is good for as a creating as a volume, but as the roof is a make can give us the freedom of life, and as I like that kind of as the freedom and flexibility under the roof, and the roof under the roof always we can enjoy the shadow, and then the shadow means the peaceful experience as and as and then the where I see this shadow as people can feel as a kind of the peacefulness.
I want to ask you about inspirations. You mentioned such inspirations as forest, like topography, rain, rainbows, bird nests. How do you translate these things into your architecture?
Yes, the uh, the weight as transformation translation is diverse. But as always, the natural phenomena is the basis of our design, and as especially as the forest is giving me many hints. The natural light comes through the leaves is very is not strong and they're not direct. But it's the softness of natural light in the forest is the basis of our the design for the interior. So we try to achieve the similar quality as forest for every interior of our space.
About the rainbow, you said in our first conversation, you said, my aim is not to create particle like works of architecture. I want to create a condition that is as vague and ambiguous as drifting particles. The closest thing to such a condition is a rainbow. And you also said, I don't want to make I don't want to make particular architecture, but to create a particular condition.
Yes, the rainbows is can give us as a big hint for as a space, and as a effect of rainbow is rainbow is a kind of effect. That effect is not as not as coming from the shape. The shape of the windows, the odd shape has no meaning. The effect is as created by the relationship between natural light and the water vapors, water particles of waters, and as a positions of observations, and that those relationship is between three element light, the particles and observers as a as can create effect. So it's very delicate. So as it's totally different from sculpture. Sculpture is as only coming from the ego of the artist, but the effect is coming from the relationship between many things. And the idea of the approach to the architecture is a rainbow, creating the effect by relationship.
You said you think of materials as basic ingredients for making things. How do you select and design particles, their size, distance, and their relationships with each other?
Yes, as a dimension of the material is very critical for us. As a, if the dimension is too big, it it's as a, it's scaling, and if the size is too small, it disappeared. And so we should find the appropriate size for the particle. And as we always try to find the appropriate size, and the appropriate textures and the appropriate surface, and as it is not easy process. I always ask to make the mock-ups, some mock-ups as a as a to want to compare the different sizes, different textures, and I check the mock-up and to find the appropriate one. But it's just maybe it's just not the last step. And after finding the good direction, in that direction, I asked them the second mock-up. This second mock-up, that kind of long process to find the solution.
Wow. And you try never to repeat what you already know, right? What you found before.
Yeah, yes, so, because I always not satisfied with the result. When I saw my building, I'm always not satisfied with the result. I think something better we can create. And then they don't want to repeat something.
Mhm.
Go to the next step. This is more important.
You said literature and architecture are very much alike. Both literature and architecture have to provide people with dreams. When you enter architecture, you enter another world. And you even mentioned that you are particularly inspired by the literature of Haruki Murakami novels, such as The Strange Library. And you even designed Haruki Murakami Library in Tokyo. So, what was the intention there? How to go from, how did you connect his literature and building?
As his literature is always giving me is many hint for my architecture design, and he is always designing the one big tunnels, and as when I started reading his novel, already as I was thrown to the in that big tunnel. And as my experiences in the big tunnels is sometimes special light is coming, sometimes special sounds coming, special strong wind. This is a series of experiences. I also want to design the one big tunnel of experience, and a good novel and good architectures can push us through the big tunnel.
And did you read him as a child?
Uh, yes, I love his novels for a long, long time. And got many hints from his novels. As I feel this, I felt the similarity as between Nobel and as a art teacher, and when I was asked to design his library. I want to show the similarity of two things in his library. It is outside is that his library is a kind of innovation. It's just an innovation of the old building, old normal building, and I don't want to touch the old building. But interiors, we design some special tunnel.
I want to discuss a couple of your key projects. They were both completed in 2002. One is the Great Bamboo Wall, a house next to the Great Wall of China, and the other Hiroshige Museum of Art in the Tochigi region. So, do you see these two buildings as breakthroughs for your practice?
Yes, I think so.
And I understand that your Hiroshige Museum was the first building where you employed straight vertical lines in your roof design. So they evoke pouring rain because one of the uh, paintings is depicting the pouring rain, people crossing the bridge under the rain. So if you could talk about maybe that building, where the ideas came from for the design.
Yeah, so Hiroshige is where I designed Hiroshige Museum. As uh, I studied as art of Hiroshige. And as art of Hiroshige is showing us the new approach to nature. As Hiroshige found the layers in nature. As before Hiroshige and nature is the shape of Mount Fuji, the shape of the trees. But Hiroshige found the layers as of those as a natural effect. And the rain is one layers, and as a mountain is not the silhouette. Mountain is also the layers, and as a and as a and I'm very much interested in the method of layering, and I try to apply the method to architecture design. And the vertical element, vertical loopers is the best way to create layers, and it is also very similar to the vertical lines of rain. And it is the first project we apply the method of layering. This is Hiroshima Museum.
And I understand that before that museum, you typically used those lines horizontally, but in the museum, it was done vertically for the first time because of that
Yes,
analogy, right?
yes,
And then you apply this idea in many other projects since then, right?
yes.
And I want to ask you about the use of wood. You said concrete and steel destroyed diversity. Using wood, we can connect the earth and the sky. If you could talk about your fascination with wood as a building material.
Yes, and the wood is alive. It is same as us as a diversity. So each wood has a different the faces, different textures, and totally the wood is living. But concrete, so we cannot find that kind of diversity. Concrete is dead, but wood is living. As after cut, wood is still living, and his wood is as breathing, as wood is has some temperatures. Wood is living, and I want to use living material, so not the dead material.
Among the architects who influenced you, you named Alison and Peter Smithson, um, particularly their Economist building in London, for how they use stone in the building's cladding. If you could talk a little bit about how you were inspired by those techniques, and maybe you can um, describe how you maybe try to uh, be informed by that in your own architecture.
Yeah, the story is about the project as we did in London. As we did design the sushi bar in the Economist building by them.
Oh, in the same building.
It's the same building. It's the ground floor, first floor of the Economist building. We refurbished the two floors to the sushi bar. And so I checked the building. I touched the building. It is the use of stone is a trouble. He did use the Portland. Uh, Not looks like property, but it's the real name is kind of limestones from local limestones, and as he didn't use the stone as the surface, not cladding. He tried to use a solid stone, and I was so shocked. I didn't I couldn't imagine that kind of the method from the photo. The photo is just showing the shape of the building, but when I touch the building, I check the detail. I've I found is his philosophy about the material. It is very impressive, and also as my image as the image is about him before that project he's a urban designer. He's proposing the new idea for the city, and it is very interesting. But I have no idea for the material of his work. And then, I was so shocked to see such as a stone of his building, after the project, I did use stone for many projects. As for example, the Kadokawa libraries, I did use stone, and as is this, I learned many things from the Peter Smithson.
I want to read a few quotes. If you could maybe elaborate some of them. You said, "We cannot control time, time always flowing. Architecture should be a part of this flow."
Yes, yes, architecture is. I think the architecture is the design of time, is not design of shape, is not design of space, design of time, and as a best example, Issei shrines, or maybe Issei shrine. Every 20 years, they build a new building. Every 20 years, they continue to repeat the buildings. I think this is the best model out of the explaining the the essence of architecture. Architecture is design for time, design time.
And then you said, "If I can create a void in my project, the project is successful."
Yes, yes, yes. I think so.
So, what do you mean by void? You're talking about what kind of space?
The void is void, and solidness is the totally opposite. In the solid part we cannot participate. But in the void, everybody can get in the void. Everyone can do something in the void. As and as and void not as a white papers. As a void is a three-dimensional as white papers, tabula rasa, and then we can do anything in the void, freedom.
And then you said wrong scale can kill materiality.
I always as a prefers intimacy. And if the scale is dominant, it kills the materiality. As it is like the food, as a food, as a as a, the size of the dishes as a food is should be intimate, because it is we can enjoy that kind of small size. If it's the size is too big, so we cannot enjoy, we cannot eat.
And you're talking about the size again, the size of various parts, right? And the distance between them. You,
Yes.
you're not talking about the entire building. You're talking about parts of the building, right?
Yes, and this is like the Japanese food. Japanese food is the size and the space is very is important, and as and as the size and the distance is related to our the experience, as the experience coming from that kind of as a design.
And then you said material is not a finish but substance. You said you want to erase the distinction between structure and finish.
Yes, the not finished, and the structure is very much related with as a substance of the material. Without structure, material cannot stand by themselves, and as we are always thinking about the structures and materiality from the beginning of the project.
You know, when architects asked about their favorite building, they typically say that it's going to be my next building. But I want to ask you about some of your favorite moments that you were able to achieve in your buildings.
Yeah, before the completion of the building, I always I encounter as a very special moment, and as a just before the completion, as I I visited the site before the completions, and I uh, I I as a before that as a point, as I'm not happy, as I couldn't imagine the final situation, but just before the completion, I I suddenly found what will happen in the building in the future. And it's that timing is coming suddenly, and it is it's a luckiest point for architects.
And do you have any particular projects that you could mention where you
Yeah, as a national stadium, national stadium Tokyo Sport Tokyo Olympic and as a stadium is very close from my office, and as every morning I drive the cars along the stadium, and Sunday, and when the udon flame is also that looks is suddenly beautiful. Some days is one day, and this is very special moment.
in your text you advocate for abandoning the idea of hierarchy.
Hierarchy is has against the void. As a sculptures, there's hierarchy. But in my architectures, I try to avoid hierarchy. Some flatness and the freedom in the flatness is most important.
Okay, I see. I see. So one material doesn't dominate others, right? I want to ask you, your wife, Satoko Shinohara, is also an architect. I know that she has her own practice. Do you ever collaborate on projects together?
Yes, in some as earlier projects we collaborated. Yeah, but as a collaboration is not easy. Now she's mainly as a teaching, as mainly as a teaching, and as she's interested in as a, uh, residence and public housing. She has been researching public housing in Asia.
Okay. And as far as teaching, I know that you teach yourself for many years, and you said before already in this interview that you were not quite satisfied with your own education and you learned a lot more later. So, how do you teach your students? What do you focus on?
Yes, my method is mainly as a creating some real as a pavilion with the student. As a creating means making the pavilion by hand with with them. And as of course we are using computers to do the drawing. But at the end of the project we made the pavilion but with the student. And it's just great experience for me and also it's great experience for themselves. Working together, creating something together with real material.
And what is the goal of each of these pavilions? Um, what's the program?
The goal is the process itself is a goal. The process is a very exciting process. We would always do the challenge of material. We try to find a new material for each.
And what can you say about your dialogue? Many years of your dialogue with the photographer Erieta Attali.
Yes, she understands, she perfectly understand the 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 experience. She also is not interested in the shape, she want to the uh, she want to print the atmosphere itself on the papers, and sometimes it is go beyond my expectation. And to working with her is always very exciting because she told me what is behind our design.
So, would you say that from project to project, do you learn something from your photographs?
Yeah, after for showing the photograph, I I was shocked because it was go beyond my expectation.
And finally, I want to ask you the last questions. Are there ideas that you haven't succeeded in realizing yet?
I've been succeeding. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm standing as the beginning of my wrong process because material as a is totally ignored in 20th century. As a, and as a, in 20th century, the as a concrete and steel on the only option for the Arctic, so they ignores every natural material. But this will be beginning of the new road that to find the what is material, what is the relationship between material and humanity.
And I understand that you are constantly searching for new materials that were not used before, right? And you
Yeah,
discover
yeah,
discover.
this, well, always as I'm trying to find some new material, and also as sometimes as people as bringing new material to me. As I'm very happy to see the new material from them. I'm still on the way.
And any examples of such discoveries? I know that you use earth and bamboo, stone, rice paper. What other materials you?
Recently, we are interested in carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is a new material, but it's a very simple material. It is just C, the carbon. So it's very light, very strong, and we sometimes use carbon fiber for the main structure of the building. It is a totally different steel, different from steel and concrete.
Yeah, Kuma-san, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for the good question, great questions. Thank you very much. Thank you.